Welcome to Stewards Opera House in Nelsonville, Ohio. This historic theater was originally built in 1879 and currently operates as a nonprofit performing arts center, hosting world-class musicians and providing arts programming to Nelsonville, Ohio and the greater region. Today we are going to be taking a tour of Stewards and learning all about the history of this building. Throughout the tour, we will also talk about all the wonderful work that's happening here now. We'll be heading up to the beautiful theater and even backstage here in just a little bit, but it makes sense to start off by entering in the grand lobby. With over 4,000 square feet, the Stewards Grand Lobby was completed in 2017 after the Next Stage Capital campaign, an effort to expand the Opera House and add more space for educational programming, rentals, and community use. It involved the expansion of the previous lobby to over 3 times the size, adding new and expanded office space, a beautiful bar, catering kitchen, and 3 floors of additional space at 30 Public Square. The current lobby, and many of the other spaces you'll see, are available for rent and make a perfect venue for weddings, parties, and events. Historically, this space you see here was split into 3 or 4 separate buildings that did not connect, and they were home to many businesses over the years. At times, this lobby would have seen the Nelsonville Public Library, the Foundation for Appalachian Ohio, the Sunday Creek Coal Company, Preston's Store, Hoffman's Department Store, and even a pizza shop. The theater is above us on the 2nd floor of the building, stretching across the entire lobby and into the office space next door. When Stewards Opera House was originally open, there would have been no lobby. The public would have entered through the side doors and went right upstairs. When Stewards first reopened in 1997, a small lobby was added as the 1879 room, with a bar and some additional space for gallery shows and events. Let's head upstairs to the theater, and I can tell you more about how Stewards got started. The steps here are in the same location that they always have been. In fact, on the landing, the original ticket booth is still visible as you enter into the main floor of the theater. Before we take the rest of the tour, it's important to get a quick history of how this place got here. Stewards Opera House was built in 1879 by its namesake George Stuart on a lot that was owned by his wife Nancy Dew, who belonged to the famous family in town and the namesake of the Dew Hotel down the street. George had run a showboat on the canals in Ohio, which had hosted various performances including vaudeville, plays, songs, dances, and jokes. In 1869, Stuart moved from the Hocking Canal in Ohio to the Erie Canal in New York, a fateful decision. This would eventually lead to his showboat being destroyed along with all of his possessions in a terrible storm. George Stuart returned home to Nelsonville, Ohio, and despite the popularity of the canals dying out, he had timed up with a coal boom in southeast Ohio and Appalachia, making Nelsonville a center of commerce and transportation in the region. And the Opera House became a way to bring entertainment to these coal towns throughout the area. Stewards had opened to the public in 1879, built from local bricks and boasting a beautiful stage and auditorium. Just like it would do in later years, the Opera House was always changing shape, with new features being added. The flat floor of the theater, for instance, was replaced by a raked floor for better viewing. The box seats and balcony would be added later on as well. The largest difference would have been the size of the crowds, with upwards of 800 not uncommon in those days, compared to a sellout around 460 now. Stewards hosted huge traveling productions, regional touring groups, plays, performances, lectures, and everything in between. It also served, as it does today, as an important community resource, often hosting high school graduations, political rallies, and union meetings in its history. One time, Stewards was even supposed to play host to a boxing match, but it was canceled at the last minute. The theater remained open until 1924, when, like many opera houses, it closed. It remained abandoned on the upper floors while businesses continued to operate on the street level. In the 1970s, a group of people formed the nonprofit organization, the Hocking Valley Museum of Theatrical History, or HV Moth, with hopes of reopening the theater as a space for educational programs and performances. They started to slowly fix the place up, bringing members of the community in to see the potential of the Opera House. But in 1980, a fire destroyed most of the theater, doing over $1 million in damage. The devastation was focused in the theater, stage, and backstage dressing rooms. After consultation with engineers and the hard work of many people in the community, the Opera House was saved and a plan for construction and restoration was put into action. Stewards reopened in 1997 and expanded its impact on the town and surrounding region every year since, hosting live music, theater, educational programs, and producing the annual Nelsonville Music Festival. On the floor of the theater, it's laid out much the same way it would have appeared before closing in the 1920s. Several features are still original to the space, including the chairs, which luckily were in storage at the time of the 1980 fire, the acoustic dome, which was reconstructed in the ceiling above and provided the original sound system for Stewart's Opera House, and the balcony, which provides additional seating in the theater. Today, Stewart's has a total of 395 fixed seats, including the floor, balcony, and box seats. Those box seats are in the same location they were, as is the orchestra pit in front of the stage. The stage itself is large for a theater of this size, and before the 1980 fire, these backstage walls would have been covered in show posters. It would have had dressing rooms and even more storage on the sides and up above the stage space. These days, it provides access to both the newly renovated backstage and the historic green room of the Opera House. The stage also features a system that allows lights, speakers, backdrops, screens, and much more to be moved in and out and adjusted depending on the various needs of the event. This historic stage itself has hosted concerts, plays, productions, weddings, events, and so much more, including backstage shows where the audience shares it with the performer. While the COVID pandemic has limited the public events at Stewart's for now, the theater has the technology to professionally live stream events, shows, weddings, and everything else from the stage to anywhere in the world. The Brickwork Backstage tells the story of the theater's history, with the new bricks of the renovation after the 1980 fire joining those from 1879 when it was first built. That history combining with the present is even more evident in the historic green room. Before the recent renovations, this was the current green room that Stewart's used. A very cool and historic space, but also a fairly small one without bathroom facilities at the time. It's now much more spacious and has all facilities a performer can need. And it also is some of the best examples of Stewart's Opera House's history, including the original dressing rooms themselves. The rest of these would have originally been on the stage, and these remain from the early days of Stewart's Opera House. They're not currently used for dressing rooms, but serve as a perfect backdrop for this newly renovated room. The last of the old Stewart's posters on the bricks can also be found in the historic green room, with the Opera House preserving what remains after over 130 years and several fires. You can see the posters on the walls here, behind plexiglass in the dressing rooms and other areas nearby. In April of 2015, just as Stewart's Opera House was beginning work on their expansion and renovations of the Next Stage Capital campaign, disaster struck again when a fire broke out in 30 Public Square, the space that was known as the Hoffman Building. It was directly next to Stewart's and shared a wall with the stage. Smoke and water damage ran rampant in the theater, lobby, and office spaces, and except for its front facade, the Hoffman Building at 30 Public Square was lost entirely. But as often occurred in the history of Stewart's, adversity made this place stronger. When the new facility opened in 2017, that 30 Public Square building would become the Stewart's Opera House Education and Community Center, adding 3 floors of much-needed space. Since we are still on the stage, why don't we start on the second floor, which is in the backstage area? The new green room sits right off stage, and it's a brand new construction with plenty of room to hang out and relax. 2 full bathrooms with showers and 2 dressing rooms are right outside the door. For couples getting married at Stewart's and those renting the facility for events, these spaces are available too. The Opera House can handle internationally known musicians like Graham Nash and Lucinda Williams, but it's also perfect for your wedding party or an event too. The second floor also features production space, a workshop, the ABC Players costume shop, a technical director's office, and most importantly, a space that is easy to access and move around in. The third floor of 30 Public Square is devoted to arts education and provides space for the AMP after-school music program, Stewart's Drama Club, our summer programming, a recording studio, practice spaces, a music library, and much more. For 20 years, Stewart's has been a community center for the arts. This arts programming and educational outreach keep the Opera House heavily involved with the underserved population of Nelsonville and the surrounding communities through cooperative participation and preservation of the arts. An average of 7,000 students participate yearly in the Stewards Arts Education Program, whose goal is to offer an affordable, broad-based program in the performing arts. The first floor of the Education and Community Center features a large open space. It's been host to concerts, fundraisers, and gallery shows, but it's also available for rent. The large brick wall in the room is the original exterior wall of the Opera House. It was closed up when another brick wall went right next to it when this building was built. Graffiti can be seen on the old bricks to this day. A conference room can also be found right off this first floor space, and access to the catering kitchen, elevator, and lobby. Stewards Opera House has had a long and storied history. This building and organization have been an institution in Nelsonville, Ohio, and on its public square for many years. To make a tax-deductible donation to Stewards Opera House, find out more information, and see all of the amazing things happening here today, please visit stewardsoperahouse.org or find us on Facebook and Instagram. For more information on renting the Opera House, you can email rentals@stewardsoperahouse.org or give the office a call at 740-753-1924. Thanks.